Cool.
All right.
And with that, we are recording.
Yep. Let me go ahead and start the video recording.
Cool.
Streamlabs, record. Sweet. We are
And
recording.
we're up. Cool.
Nice, man.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Now, I have a question. This is a very important question.
Okay.
Would you like the blue pill or the red pill?
Which one did what again?
I don't even know. I'm just asking you.
The blue pill. I think that's
Okay.
the one that
I think that you stay in
opened his
Neverland. No, it was the red pill, wasn't it?
I
Wait,
don't
now
remember.
I'm confused now.
I don't remember.
But all right.
Yeah, man.
In all seriousness, though, isn't that like a term now? People are using that like politically. They're like, we're gonna red pill you, or you've been like red pilled or something.
I don't know. I stopped following all this social media political bullshit.
How often do you watch the news?
Well, it's on every single day in my house, so I see it
Fair enough.
every day. But I
That
don't
sounds
rely on
stressful.
social media for news. I think that's stupid. But
I think it's good to see it a little bit, because to be honest, there's some stuff that, like, if I just watched the news, I feel like there's like a lot of stuff I would just not know about, you know?
yeah, no, that's true. I don't know. Like, I'll check it like on social media. Like, obviously, I see it like because people post it, so I'm gonna see it. But it's not I don't know. I'm not going there to see
News.
politics or news or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's important to know what's going on. That's why I do try to see something every day.
Yeah.
I
I
just
feel like the news is just the same thing every day.
yeah.
though.
At least when it comes to like politics, that's where I avoid looking at social media, because it's just like what you're getting is opinionated and extremely biased. But if it's just new, not everything you're gonna see anywhere is gonna be that way anyways.
Yeah.
And most of the news, in quotes, news that you see on social media is actually opinions more so than facts, I'd say. Or a combination of both, rather. But I don't know. I think in terms of trying to learn what's going on, don't get me wrong, social media can be a useful tool. I just don't think it's the sole thing that we should use. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think that honestly, I think we just need a better like way of getting news.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
really. I think we have a lot of different mediums for news media now.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people who have like great shows on YouTube. You have people doing their own like political analysis, and things like that. And I think that stuff is all like really good. And even like stuff on social media, like you'll see things that are like super opinionated and whatnot, and that's true. But you'll also hear about things that you might not have ever heard about, because there's a lot of stuff that like the news doesn't report on.
It's true.
And I know Reddit loves reporting on things that the news does not report on.
Yeah.
You know, every week you'll see something show up like, this is what's happening in Russia, and like nobody's talking about it, you know?
It's true.
And
That's true.
stuff like that.
I don't think social. It's a two-edged sword, right? I think that on one hand you get something that's good where you can learn things that you otherwise might not have known about,
Oh, definitely.
and I think that that's cool because there's a lot of stuff on social media that you see that mainstream media doesn't talk about. I mean, for the longest time, I remember I mentioned this like 2 months ago when we did the first podcast, or one of the first podcasts, all the protests in India. Mainstream media didn't talk about that, but that was all on social media. The only
That's
reason
been happening for months.
Right. And the only reason people knew about it was because of social media. People didn't know about it because of mainstream media like the New York Times, CNN, BBC, Fox News, any of that. People didn't know about it because of those. People knew about it because of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Yeah. Well, because people like actual individuals like yourself who are actually like reposting this stuff, and they're like these are my people, this is happening,
Right.
This is, like, who are actually like upset about it, like, this is dumb,
Right.
and then that's how people learn about it,
Exactly. I think that goes to show it's like that's a good thing with social media, right? We were able to all, as a collective, spread awareness
It's like actual grassroots movements,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Right, and it was wild with this specific case. Is was or is, I'm not sure. I don't. The largest organized protest in human history. There was 250 million people in India alone. Okay, that's a fourth of the population. There, about a little less.
Jesus,
that's a huge number of people protesting.
Massive. That is so much.
Right? 250 million people. That's almost
Holy
the entire
crap.
population of the United States. Okay? To put that in perspective.
Dude, that's wild.
And, you'd think that you'd hear about, largest protests in human history. You'd think you'd hear about it on mainstream media, but did we?
No.
No. We didn't. Yeah. Never did.
All you hear here is Trump and the impeachment didn't go through. Now it's the impeachment didn't go through. Before it was impeachment. Now it's just that he didn't get impeached.
Yeah.
And now everyone's talking about, like, is it right? Is it wrong? What does it mean? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe it doesn't really matter that much.
He's not president anymore.
Yeah, he's not.
He can run again, but, like, I'd be kind of surprised.
That's the thing everyone's worried about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's interesting because it's not, like, to be fair, it's not just Democrats and people that lean left that are worried about him running again. There's also enough Republicans
they can try
that
him
don't
for
want
other
to.
things. I mean,
say it again.
Right, they could try him for other things. Like the Mitch McConnell literally said this. I actually saw his address on the news, like after when they wrapped up the trial a few days ago or whatever. He actually said, like, this is just like one thing. This is just impeachment, and we don't think that that's a fitting. Oh shit!
What the hell? Sorry. Keep going.
Okay, anyway. I just thought it was funny. He just like disappeared. Escape. I'm like, oh, okay, he's gone. No, but yeah, he like literally said like this is just one avenue. Like I actually totally agreed with like everything he said. I thought it was like very reasonable. I thought it made a lot of sense. Because he's like, look, like the dude's not president anymore. Part of the whole impeachment thing is removing the person from the office, and we can't do that. So it doesn't really make sense. And I get why everyone wanted him to be impeached, but that's true. I mean, he's not in office anymore. Like you kind of, you missed the boat, so to speak. It's like,
right,
ship has sailed. It's over. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get both sides of it. Like, I get why, like, they wanted to impeach him, and I also understand why they didn't. Like, why some people are like, I don't get the point in it. Honestly, at this point, I don't know that it matters. He's not president anymore. Now, that doesn't mean he can't run again. I mean, now he can if he wanted to. He could run again in 2024. I don't know how likely that is. I mean, he's kind of got a big ego, so I kind of feel like he will.
If he even can, I mean, I feel like everyone's just going after him right now. Everyone that can go after him is going after him.
Yeah,
basically.
but it's been like that for the past 4 years, though. Everybody that can go after him has been. And, the problem is this. Within his own party over the past 4 years, which you've seen, it's honestly, it's really entertaining to go back and look at what Republicans said about Trump during the primaries. And none of them liked him. They all couldn't stand him. Right? They were all like, no, he's not a real Republican. He's not a real conservative. We don't like him. He does not represent our party. And now they all say that Trump is the future of our party, which is kind of true.
That's disturbing.
Right, but it's
if
true.
If that's
though.
the case, then we need to get rid of if that's honestly, and I don't believe that that's really what the Republican Party has become, because ultimately your party is only as good as the people who are in it, and the truth is just that most of the people in the Republican Party, most of the people who actually identify as red or as Republican or conservative, or any kind of a similar ideology along that vein, even like libertarians, like true libertarians, they don't fall into that category. They're not that, they don't want that. So.
No, and I think what you have to do is,
I think most of them are just sick of what they would say we're sick of liberals, but like they're just sick of Democrats and people on the left. Really is more than anything.
What do you mean?
I mean, okay, so you say like you kind of there's like this disturbing idea that like the future of the Republican Party is this sort of really radical sort of, I don't know how you would describe it, Trumpist sort of future. But I don't think that that's true, basically. So
Gotcha.
I think that what's really true of most people who are on the right, whether it's moderate right, middle right, far right, wherever, just on the right, you know, is that they just don't like the left. You know,
Gotcha.
They either see the hypocrisy of the left, they hate the left because of, you know, okay, so like the Cara Dune thing from Star Wars, her being fired. Did you hear about that? The actress that got fired. Yeah, so that's like one good example, I think, of this kind of extremization. You know, this kind of we're like turning people into, you know, we're pushing them to the extremes basically through this kind of ridiculous behavior. And because the media is primarily controlled by progressive, sort of more liberal leftists,
I think
so
it's
to speak.
seemingly progressive. I don't know how much the executives actually give a shit. I honestly think that.
Well, it just seems like that's what you see.
No,
you know,
it is. But what I think it is, though, is here's what I think it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there isn't a liberal bias in Hollywood and media. There absolutely is. I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm saying when it comes to these top executives, though, I don't think they actually care about. I don't think they're actually liberal. Whether they are or not, I don't think it matters.
Right.
I think the reason
they just care about what makes money. Right?
Exactly. I think the reason that they make these decisions isn't because they care necessarily about the specific issue. I think they make these decisions because they're afraid that if they don't, it's going to affect their money. I think that's why they do it, to be honest. I don't think it has anything to do with, I'm going to push my liberal ideology, even though it does come off as a way, and it kind of does push a certain ideology. However,
it's more about making money.
Right. I think it's about making money more than it is about, pushing an agenda.
No,
but there's definitely a bit of both in there.
Yeah. No, I think you're definitely right along that vein for sure. I think they're just one thing that they're definitely neglecting is like half of everybody. Right. You know, with that. So it's like, you think it's going to affect your bottom line, but like, what about most of the people who live in the country that disagree with what you're selling them? You know,
right?
You're losing their money.
Right.
And so, but they still have to go somewhere. And so like with the canning the Cara Dune character, and I forget the name of the actress, but you know, I read the post that got her fired, and I read multiple articles and different reports talking about the things leading up to her being fired and kind of the different controversies she stirred up before. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, she didn't say anything wrong, A, and B, she never really said anything. Okay, she just did say things that are controversial, but they're just her views, and she never really said anything to hurt anybody.
I think the dumb thing the thing people got.
People are calling her like anti-Semitic. What she said was the opposite of anti-Semitic.
So she compared being a Republican in America today to being a Jew in the Holocaust.
She didn't.
She didn't.
Yeah, see, that's what everyone's saying. But I read the post, and that's not what she said.
So what did she say?
See, this is what I'm talking about. Because, and I read this a few days ago, so I read the post, and I can read it to you. I took a screenshot, actually. I came with the facts. And people are trying to paint her as like far right now. And this is what I was trying to say a minute ago, actually, is that when you try to shut people out, they still have to go somewhere. You know, when you exclude people, they have to go somewhere. Yeah. And they're going to go to the only people that accept them. And if that's the far right, then they're going to go to the far right. Because
you've now created that.
Yeah, exactly. Because those are the only people who will listen to them because you have shut them out, you know? Yeah. But this is what she said verbatim on her page. She said, like, I'm going to quote, "Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews." This is completely true and historically accurate. Then she said, "How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?" I get what she's saying there. I think she didn't make it completely clear, but I understand exactly what she's saying, right? She's saying that the way that they made people hate the Jews, the Nazis made people hate the Jews, hate their own neighbors for being Jews, is the way that we are turning to each other and hating each other today just for holding different political beliefs and different political ideologies. How we today turn to our neighbors who are Republican or who are liberal or whatever, and we hate them or we hate what they believe and we turn against them. It's the same thing. That's what she's saying. And I think that that's actually a good comparison. I think that's actually true to a degree, because we do see that. We see that on social media and it bleeds out into real life, this hate for the other, for people who believe things that are different than us. And so she's calling that out. And I mean, I just didn't see anything wrong with that. I thought to some people, the Holocaust especially can be like a very sensitive issue. It could be something very, very sensitive that happened in history. Mm-hmm. And that's because it was horrible. Mm-hmm. But I think unlike the Germans, for some reason, we seem to not want to learn from it. In the United States, because when she posts something like that, you'll have people who scream like anti-Semitic and, she's shaming people for their beliefs. And it's like, that's not what she said, actually. She actually said the opposite of that. She was actually calling that out. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like the parallel, that's fine. If you think it was a bad example, okay, that's one thing. But to actually say that she was doing the opposite of what she actually was doing, that's just lying. Right. So.
Yeah.
But see this. So this is a problem I see, and it's yeah. So even you thought mm-hmm. that it was one way, but that's not what she said. Yeah.
Again. Okay. So. Okay. After actually hearing what she said, I mean, two sides to every coin. I think that it's a bit of an exaggerated example. However, I think that she's making... I get her point.
Yeah.
I get her point. And I think it's a fair point. I also get why some people... Okay, what I don't get is how you draw the conclusion that she's comparing being a Republican to being a Jew in the Holocaust. Well, I mean, no, I can see how you do that, but you're kind of reaching.
That seems like a stretch.
Because she says, before the Nazis did this, it was the people that turned on them.
Each other. Yeah.
On each other. And she's saying that's what's happening here. And you can kind of see, if you know someone's political ideology, again, this is reaching. We know that she leans to the right. To what degree? I have no idea. I don't really care. So you can see, she's talking about, this is what's happening to Republicans. However, honestly, that whole thing happens to everyone, and that's probably what she was saying. I don't know. I'm not her. I'm not going to say what she was thinking. I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. Yeah. But it seems, I get what you're saying. And again, I think that goes back to the problem with, that's one of the dangers of social media, right?
Oh, yeah.
All I had seen was these headlines everywhere. I didn't know what the hell. I went, okay. And I would read them. And that's interesting. Now that I come to think of it, I don't think I read a single article where they actually showed the actual tweet or whatever it was that she said. It was just...
It's in their interest not to keep everyone, angry. And they'll tell their interpretation of what she said. But if they don't actually show you what she said, they don't really, they can say whatever they want.
I don't think there's a problem with people giving their interpretation of what she said, but I think that they should have showed the actual quote and said, okay, now because she said this, we think that if you're going to make an accusation like that, if you're going to make an argument, you need to be able to back it up. If you cannot back it up, you should not be making the argument. Saying, she compared being a Republican to being a Jew in the Holocaust. Okay, how? Give me an example. You just keep repeating the same thing over and over. Well, she compared it. Okay, what did she say? Right? And in the articles I read, look, maybe there are articles where they do say that. I don't know. The ones I read, at least, didn't see it. And, and that's a problem. right? I think if you're going to make a point like that, especially like that, that's a bold point to make, that someone's comparing being a Republican to being a Jew in the Holocaust.
Yeah, because if
you
that's
need to
actually
be able to back that up. Because don't get me wrong,
that's
if that was her actual,
crazy.
if she was actually saying that, then like I'd be like, that was stupid, and I can see why you would call that anti-Semitic. Like that's just dumb.
Yeah,
like,
and I would understand like why you would fire someone too from your company for that, you know?
Right, if that's what she had actually said. However, it doesn't seem to be that way.
And it doesn't seem like Disney really cared either. And so I'm using her as an example, obviously, but this is just one example to highlight a bigger issue.
Sure.
And the issue ultimately is, it's kind of, I mean, there are a lot of issues really. I mean, part of it is like this tribalism, you know, and then part of it is just the pushing people to the extremes basically, because, you know, you don't like what they said or whatever. So you try to silence them. And to think that, you know, someone could say something you don't like, and then that will lose them their job. You know, that's their livelihood. That's how they make money. I mean, if you start messing with people's money, you've royally screwed up. I mean, you really have, you know, because, you know, you could do a lot of things to people and they'll take it. But when you start messing with people's money, that's not going to fly. So now she has to do what she has to do. So she's turned to and apparently figures like Ben Shapiro to go on and do her own independent movies and whatnot, because she needs to make money, and because those people will listen to her and they agree with her viewpoints. You know, she may be a very moderate person, but now what's going to happen is she's going to be associated with these far right figures or whatever.
And she's going to, exactly.
You know, and so now she's going to be like, it's just more fuel for the other side to say, look, see, she's this monster. But
and all that's going to happen again, and we've talked about this before, all you're going to, you create the monster. You do that on purpose. Maybe not on purpose, but you create that. When you push people towards the fringes, what do you think happens? If you say, we're going to deplatform you, right? That's a whole thing. We're going to deplatform you. You can't have a platform to share your opinions. And here's what you do, okay? You push these people to the dark corners of the internet where they're now really in an echo chamber. And they're not only in an echo chamber with people who agree with their moderate or even conservative views. No. You've now pushed them into an echo chamber with people who legit have scary views. Be it on the far left or the far right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you've made them angry now.
Right. And you've pushed them there. You've given them nowhere else to go. So now they're stuck going there. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the danger of online radicalization. That happens all the time. You push people.
Oh, yeah.
You push people away from mainstream means of communication, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook.
Yeah, and you push them away from reasonable views, too.
And you push them away from reasonable views, and then you send them into this place of irrationality and just crazy, whack out there beliefs. And again, you saw this. It would happen with not all of 4chan, I know, but certain forms of 4chan. It was like, okay, that's a little out there. It's the only example I can think of right now. I know, but there's other websites, right? It's the same thing. You see the same thing. And here's, again, when it's with social media, you see an echo chamber. And the problem is, if you don't fit within that echo chamber, you get kicked off. Look at Twitter. It's more liberal, progressive, left-leaning, generally speaking. And if you don't fit within that echo chamber of beliefs, well, then you don't belong on that platform, right? You got to go somewhere else now, even though that's one of the biggest means of communication in the world, right?
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Is it really?
Think about it. It's one of the largest social media apps. It's the way I can communicate in theory with someone on the other side of the planet by sending tweet and then they see it. That's it. That's all you have to do.
That's true. And normal people's tweets go viral all the time, just like
all the time.
Ordinary people. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know. It's a dangerous thing when you look at someone's ideology, regardless of what it is, and you go, your opinions don't deserve to be heard. Now, don't get me wrong. If someone's legitimately shouting racist, anti-Semitic, whatever, like legit stuff, I get why you would go, maybe we don't want that. Even then, I'd go, okay, as dumb as I think those views are, if you could tolerate it for a sec, listen to it, and then go, okay, and then maybe explain to this person, considering how rational or irrational they are, they're going to listen or not.
Yeah.
Here's what I think happens, right? I think once you get way out on the fringes, it's really hard to pull people back, although I don't think it's impossible because people do it all the time. Look at Daryl Davis. He's a black man that has pulled out, I don't even know how many people out of the KKK. Okay? Yeah. He did that. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think everyone can do that because I think that's a really hard thing to do. And I don't know that everybody has the patience, the compassion, and the empathy to do that. I just don't think everyone has the ability to do that. I think that's fine.
You have to get to know those people. Like, you have to get close to them, you know?
Right. Yeah. Which I think can be hard. And I'm not going to say that everyone's obligated to do that. That's not what I'm saying. However, I think there's a point where you can kind of pull people back before they get there. You know what I mean? Before someone ends up on the fringes of the right or the left. It doesn't matter. There's a point where you can go, okay, before they just jump in the water head first. It's like, okay, well, why don't we... I know you're about to jump, but how about we just talk a little bit, right? Yeah. I think that's something almost everyone can do.
Yeah.
Right. I think once people get out on the fringes, I think it's a harder conversation to have that I don't think everyone's equipped for. However, I think before people get there, I think that having those conversations is necessary because that's how you really prevent people from ending up with extreme views on either side of the spectrum. Is by before they end up head first in the deep end, you go, okay, well, why don't we talk about this for a second? Explain to me why you're starting to think this way and believe these things, and let's have a conversation, right? But we don't like to do that. We like to shout and get angry and go, well, no, you don't agree with me, and you don't deserve a platform.
What I believe is right, and you should believe this.
Exactly, and it's like you're literally creating what you think you're stopping.
This is the other thing too with just silencing people in general. I was listening to an interview with some guy from the ACLU the other day, and I don't really know that much about the ACLU, but this guy in particular he's kind of, I guess, famous for like advocating for free speech rights and things like that. Yeah. And he said something interesting about how basically when you silence people, they don't go anywhere. Exactly. Just because you've silenced them, like they're still like there, you just can't hear them now, which is actually more dangerous because now you don't actually know what they're saying anymore because you've shut them up. You know?
Exactly.
So at least when it's all out in the open, at least you know what they're saying and you can combat that. But if you don't, you know, it's like if someone's like actually saying something horrible and you just like silence them, and then you don't know what they're saying anymore. This is like, you know, if your enemy, you know, as if you just tried to like ignore your enemy. It's like, you can't just do that. Like, it's like as if someone was like, I'm not saying this is necessarily what it's like, but if someone was like trying to invade your country, maybe like with ideas, you know, and you just like ignore them.
Right,
like they didn't stop trying to invade your country. Like they're still coming in. Like they're still gonna try and like invade your, you know. So it's like you can't just like ignore them. Like
you've made it easier for these ideas to flourish.
Yeah, because it's like.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, because it's like now. I mean, now they also can say like, look, see, they want to shut me up, you know, and then like they can use that to maybe like try and rally more followers or to try and, you know, like with I'm gonna go back to the example of what happened with that actress in Disney, you know, who was playing Cara Dune in Star Wars. Like, they shut her out. Basically, they fired her. They took away her job, and they basically like disgraced her for saying, you know, her opinion and for saying, you know, I guess it was that one thing in particular that kind of broke the camel's back or whatever. So A, now she has to go somewhere, and B, they kind of proved her point, you know, because she was saying like, hey, like they're turning us against each other, and then a whole mob comes and like asks for her to be fired for saying that, basically. And so now she can just go like, look, see what I tell you. You know,
That's
basically.
a good point.
Now you've just basically proven that she's right, is all you've done.
Right.
You know, now, because now she can always just use this example and say like, look at all these people, look at what they did. And also she can blame all of them now too for all this stuff that's happened. So
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. The point you made about that with the guy in the ACLU said about you know, as bad as some of these ideas and things that people say might be, it's better that we at least hear them and know about them, because then you can combat it, like you said, right? And that's interesting, because that's an idea that there was a guy in my political science class when I was at community college, and he brought that point up. He was a really smart guy. And it was funny because obviously we live in California. It's typically more left-leaning. And even that class, I'd say there was more people that happened to lean towards the left. But what I thought was, and it gave me a little bit of hope that people can at least have civil discussion, but you actually have to have the discussion. There was people that disagreed with that point, but they didn't get angry. They didn't think, oh, you're a shitty person for making this point. And even some of them even went, oh, that's actually a good point. I actually kind of agree with you now. And it's just by listening and understanding each other and having conversations. And I think that goes back to the whole thing. When you just say, no, I'm going to ignore you, and then basically, like you said, let the invader come. They're not going anywhere. These people, you're just going to, like the point I made earlier, all you're doing is pushing them into an echo chamber of extreme ideas. That's all you're doing.
Pretty much.
Because these people still exist.
You could go from saying something completely reasonable, and you know, if people won't listen to you, then, you know, like, you got to go to someone who will listen to you. And, you know, if, you know, people who are on the right won't listen to you talk about the benefits of universal basic income, then you're going to have to go to people on the left if you want to talk about that, you know? And you might end up talking to the wrong people. I think you almost always end up talking to the wrong people. Or, you know, and a lot of times those people aren't necessarily bad people either. They're just the same people. They fell into the same trap, you know, of having, you know, good intentions, reasonable ideas, you know, and they just want to do good, and they are just led astray. And like, before you know it, they're like far left, and they're like, we should have no borders and no police, and the country should be like, the people should be free, and the people should have the power, and all this stuff. And, you know, you got to go like, wait, hold on. Like, pump the brakes for a second, buddy. Let's really like break these ideas down, you know?
Like, what are you saying?
Huh?
No, I'm not. That's a rhetorical question. I get what you're saying. But
Yeah.
That's like, what, like, okay, like, what are you actually saying? Like, what do you actually believe? Like, let's break this down. Let's examine what this actually means.
And let's look at what you actually want to, because it's like, a lot of times, something sounds like a good idea until it isn't a good idea. And, you know, a lot of times I think what people actually want, maybe we don't need to do such extreme things to achieve those desires, you know? Like, if you want a more fair society, you don't necessarily need a communist society, you know?
Well, I think oh my God. Okay. Okay. You're right. I agree. And something you
just an idea.
No, but
yeah.
So the whole notion and belief that the far right, we know it's bad. They push inequality, they push the racism, they push whatever it is. Okay. That's a widely accepted view. But then why don't we examine the far left enough? Okay. Oh, because they're equality. That's what these things mean, right? And it's like, okay, you clearly do not understand political systems. You do not understand political ideology. You do not understand political theory. You just don't get it. And there's a a danger, I think, with that ideology, because my personal...
Yeah, wait, hold that thought for 1 second. There's like a noise I gotta turn off. Just give me like 2 seconds.
Okay, here's what you gotta do. Cool. I'm just gonna edit this out.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go on.
You're good. Anyways. Look, okay, personally, honestly, I think that the far left and the far right, they're not that different from each other. You know what I mean? When you actually look at the things that they call for and the types of powers that the government then has, they're not too different. There's differences, obviously.
Yeah.
Fascism isn't exactly like communism, and yet when you break it down, you can see, oh, wait, why don't we look at what's happened? Political prisoners, censoring of media, et cetera, et cetera. You just keep going down the list. This is what happens.
They're tactically the same.
Right. Exactly. Ideologically, no. They actually are completely opposites. However, the things that they do are the exact same.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be more critical of people on the far left, and the far left, I should say, in general. There's just the ideology of the far left, because it's like, do you realize that these ideas that you're calling for, the implications of them are the same exact things as fascism? It's the same thing.
This is the far right, yeah.
It's no different. And look at it historically at these countries, right? Okay, so let's look at Germany. Obviously, we know what happened during Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you look at the Soviet Union during that time? Twice as many people were killed as political prisoners. And guess what? That was a communist society.
Yeah, they were like the other side.
It was the other side. And yet, it's like, well...
And not to mention all the people that starved. I mean...
Exactly.
This is the thing with like, censoring speech, and then, taking, and then saying like, well, really the problem with censoring speech is like, who's going to be the arbiter of speech? It's like,
right, who is going to determine what's right and what's wrong?
And because, right. And then this is another thing actually that guy from the ACLU was talking about. He was like, the people who want things censored, like they're never going to be the people who actually do the censoring. Right. It's going to be like the government. There's going to be someone who's appointed. Someone's going to be given the power to say what it is and isn't okay to say. So when you have like a communist country, we take that a step further. It's not just what you can and can't say anymore. Now it's what you can and can't buy, what you can and cannot do, And now someone's determining who gets what, how much of it, and when, Do you want that? Does any society want that? Because I think that seems horrible.
I agree.
Because how often is that actually going to be, what you deserve, right? Or what is actually fair, It's never going to be that, ever.
No.
And I think that there are some compelling arguments that people on the far left, people who advocate for, communism, or before communism, socialism, right? Which in Marxist theory, socialism is just a transitionary period to communism.
Okay, that's true. That is true.
There are a lot of different definitions for things like socialism, though.
I know.
Yeah.
Something, though, that I do think is important to point out. While, yes... so I've actually read the Communist Manifesto. I had to do in my political theory class.
That's good.
And it was interesting. And to my understanding, like you said, he does call for socialism is basically the transitioning phase between capitalism and communism, because in socialism, money is still a thing, right? Whereas in communism, that is the absence of all money. You don't need it at all. Whereas in socialism, generally speaking, I know there's different levels of it, but the general idea is that income and wealth is distributed evenly. And then communism goes a step further and goes, right, well, money's not even a thing. We don't need it. And
Right.
if you look at it in societies that have communism, they're technically not. No communist society in a modern industrialized nation has existed. It's all been socialism. And just something that I think is interesting. Most of them have moved towards a free market to an extent. Not all of them, but China is a good example. When the People's Republic of China was first founded, it was a socialist nation. It absolutely, there's no denying that. It was socialist. You cannot tell me today that it is. In terms of economic policies, it is to an extent. The government still has a hand in everything. No, here's what it is. So they have moved more towards a free market, and free trade, I should say, is really what they've more opened up to. However, because you initially gave the government all those powers at the beginning to determine who gets this much money and who gets this, well, now, exactly like you said, well, now they get to determine what you can't say, what you can and can't say, what you can and can't look up on the internet, okay? Yeah. What is allowed, what isn't. They are in the pockets of all businesses there. There is no such thing as an independent business. From the government has somewhat of a hand in all businesses there, in all corporate businesses there especially, right? And that's one of the things that we get scared about here, like Huawei, for example. That's it's a Chinese cell phone company, and we always get concerned about that because it's like, well, we know that the government has a hand in that, right? And I know like congressmen and women, and I think senators, they're not allowed to use Huawei phones.
No, not at all.
We banned it. Like they're not allowed to use it because we don't know, because the government has a hand in that.
Yep.
But going back to what I was saying, when you give these people this power at the beginning to do this seemingly noble cause, we're going to raise up the poor, we're going to redistribute all income and create a truly equal utopian society. It's like, that's not what you do. You don't raise everybody to an equal level of wealth. You bring everybody down to an equal level of poor. And on top of that, what you do is now, even if you start to move away from that, and then you create more opportunities for people to create wealth, which is what's happened in China. There are billionaires in China. That's true, right? However, what is still the same? The control over basically all your other freedoms. Which, like I said, what you can say, what you can't say, what you can look up, what you can't look up, and all those types of things. What information is allowed to get out, and things like that. It's really easy for China, to an extent, to control the narrative of what happens within their country, because guess what? They control all the media within their country, and so actually learning about what's going on there is much more difficult than it is to, say, learn about what's going on here to an extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's, again, when you look at left-wing ideology, I think it's like, you got to recognize that this is technically what you're calling for. Just look at every country that has done this and what they have moved when they have gone far left. This is what has happened. Okay, Cuba is another good example. And this is one that people on the left like to look at today and go, oh, look at how great Cuba is. Okay, my question is this. Is the cost worth the benefit? Cost-benefit analysis. Fidel Castro was responsible for killing God knows how many men, women, and children. Children. They killed kids because guess what? They happened to be born into a certain family. How is that? Okay, and then flip it. If you start to, isn't that discrimination? Right?
Yeah.
You're going to kill a child. A child. For what? Because they happen to be born into a family where they politically are opposed to you. And mind you, they didn't just kill people that had money and took their shit. They killed people that disagreed with them. They took all privatized land and went, great, well, now it'll be distributed evenly. But now let's look at their country today. Like I said, they're not an equal level of rich.
Wealthy, yeah.
It's not... No, don't get me wrong. You can't, like, there's certain aspects there that do work for them, right? They all have healthcare.
The main argument that you'll hear from people who are far left is just that, like, it hasn't been done right, and I don't buy that, and I don't think I've really heard a good defense for that whole. It hasn't been done right, and it's like, if it hasn't been done right, why hasn't it been done right? And
These
like
places have
B,
clearly tried.
how exactly are you planning to do it right? Like, how is it that you're planning to avoid everything that happens when you go and try and turn, something like to imagine that you could turn a country like the United States into a communist nation?
It'll never happen.
How are you going to do that without like killing millions of people? Like,
well, I mean, that's the thing. I think there was one time where I did wonder, and maybe this was me just trying to be a little hopeful, but I was like, I wonder if these people actually understand the cost of what they want. And they do. I think they do. And I think that's a scary thing. It's like you realize you're calling for the deaths of thousands upon thousands in a country this size, millions of people. You realize that, right? That's what you're calling for.
You're just calling for the deaths of you, because you have to. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You have to call for the deaths of people who don't agree with you, and people who want the old system. And anyone who opposes you. Basically, they all have to go.
And then listen to this again. How is that different than what the Soviet Union did with their political prisoners, what Hitler did, what China is doing right now?
Yeah. How
is that what India is doing to an extent? They're not locking people up, but, well, they are, but not to the same level. How is this any different? You're the same thing that you claim to hate, because your tactics and methods and the things that you actually do are no different.
Yeah, well, this is the thing that kind of pisses me off about like colleges a lot, because I remember, like talking to people and to faculty on my college, right? Because you'll hear all this talk of like diversity and inclusion and, supporting students and different people and beliefs and whatnot. But it's only as long as they're the ones that we like, basically, is what it is. It's like, we'll support the diversity that we want to see. We'll support the people that we want to hear and that we think should be supported. We'll support the people who and diversity of beliefs that we like, basically. And we'll include the people that we want to include. Mm-hmm. What they don't tell you is that we're actually going to exclude everyone else. Mm. And, that, basically anyone who has a belief that we don't like, we're going to exclude that. They're not going to be part of our diversity, basically. Mm-hmm. And when they say that, they want, equality for everyone, they really just mean equality for people that they want equality for.
Well, it's not equality, it's equity, and there's a difference.
Yeah, well, I actually don't really think either of those things are good things anymore.
You said what?
I said I don't think either of those things are good things anymore. I was always like, no, equality is ridiculous because nothing's equal. People aren't equal. Like, I am not equal to you.
Right.
We're different,
We're
like
different.
there's no equality. It's like, what do you mean equality, Mm-hmm. Like, everyone isn't the same amount of smart. Everyone doesn't put in the same amount of effort. Everyone's not born into the same family with the same skills, with the same knowledge of things. So it's like, right. Nothing is equal.
I think the whole thing, though, when you're talking about, like, okay, I think you're right when it comes to that. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, no shit. Everyone isn't technically equal, right? Yeah. Like, there's certain things that I'm going to be better at than you. There's certain things that you're going to be better at than me. There's certain things that you can do that I can't. And that it goes to everybody else, too, right?
Yeah.
Although I think, though, when people talk about equality in terms of politics, they're talking about, like, rights. I don't think they're talking about,
everyone gets to be seen the same, with the same amount of dignity.
Which basically. I think that should be
that's the standard. Right. That should just be.
I just think that's how it should be. Don't get me wrong. But I get what you're saying, though. I just felt the need to clarify that because I know for a fact that that little soundbite, dude, equality's stupid. And it's like, okay, hold on, what do you mean?
Obviously, yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Even in terms of ensuring that everyone is seen with equal dignity. I guess it's a nice idea. That'll never happen though either, because say someone has if someone's like a racist or something, like, are we going to see them with the same amount of dignity? Are they going to be guaranteed the same rights as everyone else? It's like, I don't think so. No, they're not. So still this idea of equality, it just doesn't, because you're going to have people that, even if they're saying terrible things, it's like, should that equality still apply to them? I think most people would be like, well, they're saying terrible things, so like we obviously not, you know? So in that case, you would actually, I think, I'd be surprised if people didn't agree that equality would actually be a bad thing. Because, you know, say you have like, I mean, again, it's like a matter of like, how do you define like what's wrong and right and who's bad and who's not? But, you know, for certain things, it's like, you know, you gotta make a call, basically. It's like, are you going to treat someone that you hate with the same dignity that someone that you love? And if you're not going to do that, then there's not going to be any equality, basically. No, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I think that we should, you know, I think everyone should have their dignity ensured, that they should have their rights ensured, even if they're horrible. And it's for that reason. It's because bless you.
Thanks.
But it's because if you don't ensure those people's rights and dignity, then what guarantee does anyone else have, you know?
Well, and if you're not guaranteeing that for them, who's to guarantee that for you?
Exactly. And what happens when the tide turns? Because the tide always turns.
That was a point I was going to make earlier, is when we talk about speech, you know, and narratives and whatever, it's like, okay, when we say you can say this and you can't say this, and right now, and whoever is in power, whoever seems to have the power, be it people on the left or the right, guess what? One day that's going to flip. And do you want that side censoring you? I don't think you do. So then maybe you should stop trying to do this to them. Because I guarantee you what's going to happen. Because that's the thing, power dynamic, they shift. That's what happens. Things change. Things are going to change. And when other people have power, are you going to want them to do that to you? Now, to be fair, I think a fair point to make, you can see this throughout the 20th century and before that. It was conservatives and people on the right that had control over speech and things like that. The FCC, you can say this, you can't say this. We would allow for this, we wouldn't allow for this. These ideas are okay, these ideas are not okay.
Dude, that's why you can't curse on the radio.
I know.
That's crazy, right?
I know. And but that's true though. Like at that point in time, through basically that whole century, especially as media started to develop, it was the right that had control over those things. That's just true. And so now you see the shift, and it's like, so to be fair, while I'm saying that people on the left shouldn't do that to people on the right because they can do it back to you, to be fair, the right did that to the left, and now I'm not justifying it. I don't think that's a justification. However, you can see that
it just highlights the importance of the solution, which is just that, like, we should not be doing that.
No, I agree. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. However, you can see that that's what's happening, and that's what's happened. Whether people realize that consciously or not, that is what happened. Because in the 20th century, and you could go before them, but let's just say 20th century because it's easy. Like, that's just true. The right is the one that had control over media and things like that. Like today, okay, I'll give you an example. So today, if you hold any ideas that are remotely conservative, they'll call you a fascist. Okay, well, in the 60s, 70s, what happened? Oh, in the 80s, when was the Vietnam War? Because that's
talking
really
about
good example.
McCarthyism. You talking about that?
So, huh?
Or are you talking about before?
No. So here, let me just I'll just give an example. Okay. So today, right? If you say anything remotely conservative, right wing, whatever, oh, you're a fascist, even though it's like, okay, well, technically they're not, but okay. Well, if you had any idea that was remotely liberal, if you had any idea that was against the Vietnam War, you're a commie. And we're going to censor your opinions, and you're not allowed to share these opinions. And people were actually jailed for being communists. That actually happened.
I heard about this like not that long ago. And that was McCarthyism.
Yeah. And so it's like, both
there was
sides do it,
kids
and I think
who
that's
there were kids who wore black armbands. They didn't say anything or do anything. They just wore black armbands to show support against the Vietnam War, against the communist war, against the Vietnam War, and they were like suspended from school. Like they were taken out of school just for like literally doing nothing. They were just wearing like black armbands. That was it.
Right.
You know?
And I think it's like, I think that's something, because because we've talked a lot about on this podcast, basically the left going, nope, you're not allowed to say this. But I think that's something that people on the right and conservatives will kind of overplay now. And it's like, don't get me wrong, it does happen. That is a problem. However, you're the one that did this for a century, at least.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like tit for tat, you know, even though you kind of have to zoom out to see it, but it is like tit for tat. It's like, you know, the pendulum swings one way and then it goes the other way. It's like...
I'm not saying that makes it right?
But it's an explanation. It's like you can clearly see why this happens. Yeah.
And again, it's like, if you hadn't done this... Basically what we're saying, you know, if you shouldn't keep pushing people into these echo chambers, you shouldn't, it's a bad thing to censor ideology. And it's like,
censor ideas,
because when those power dynamics shift, guess what's going to happen to you? Okay, well, look at what happened with
who maybe they shift because of that, you know, because
I think so. Maybe I don't know.
You know, it's like one side pokes the other one too much, and they're like, okay, we've had it. We're done, you know, no more of this. And then they come back and they're like angry, you know, and then the other side gets even more pissed. And so then they're going to come back and, you know, maybe this time around it's civil war, like actual violence in the streets or something, you know, because you can't just keep pushing each other. You know, like it's like when a fight starts and like two people get in each other's face and they start pushing each other. It's like, as things escalate, you know, that turns into like a whole brawl, you know, and then maybe like other people jump in and then, you know, it's like World War III or something, you know. It's like, seriously, it's like, you know, I mean, I could just imagine how many countries would just like get their jollies to see the United States start fighting itself, and you have like these two sides in the US just like butting heads, and then they just like, it's like civil war, like.
Well, the Russians already tried to do that, and we know that's a fact.
Everyone's going to want a piece of that, you know? Yeah. Everyone's going to be like, dude, it's happening. Look at the United States. Yeah. Look what's happening in the U.S. Yeah. Like, everyone's going to want a piece of that, for sure, you know? And we're not ready for it, like, at all, you know? And anyone who wants a civil war, it's like, you're not ready for it either.
I don't think that a lot of people... This is something that... that I've seen people that have actually been like soldiers say, like in interviews and stuff, they're like, people here do not understand the reality of violence and war. People do not understand it. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I don't have to understand it. And
that might change.
Huh?
I said that might change.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll get to that point. You never know. But
hopefully not, but you never know.
But what I think is this, is that a lot of the times when these people call for violence, right? Let's use the left for example. When these people are calling for this, it's like, I don't think you understand the reality of what I do think that they understand the cost of what they're asking for, but I don't think they understand the reality of that cost.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I think they understand that it means a lot of people got to go. Right, a lot of people are going to die.
But that's different than actually seeing people rounded up and executed.
And don't get me wrong, I do think some of them would be okay with that.
Sure.
But
for most people, that's going to be very traumatizing, though.
And it just, people don't understand the reality of things like that. And it's like...
We're talking guilt and PTSD for the rest of your life. And how many people who have PTSD like kill themselves?
I don't know.
You know? I imagine it's a good amount, you know?
I mean, it's sad. I mean, look at what happens with veterans. There was, I think it was not last year. It might have been last year. No, I think it was the year before.
Dude, if you listen to, there are plenty of interviews with veterans. A lot of them will say that, you know, it's not the war that's the problem. It's the seeing your friends dead that's the problem, you know? You know, seeing bodies that are not supposed to be dead. They're supposed to be living people with their whole lives ahead of them.
Well, and a lot of the
but
time,
they're dead. And like, we're not supposed to, like, that doesn't work. We're not supposed to see that.
And there's times where some people, they'll say like they did things that they didn't want to do, that were hard to do. You know, I hopefully won't have to understand what it's like to take a life. And that's something that these people have to do. And it's like, maybe we should listen to these people when they say, it is not what you think it is. It is not all fun and games. It is not, when they say you don't understand the reality of it, maybe we should listen. Someone who's experienced it, and then go, okay. And then maybe reevaluate what you're thinking about. Let's call for violence in the streets and let's go kill those people that don't agree with us.
Overthrow the government and burn it all down. It's like,
what do you think is going to happen? Like, I want you to really consider what you're talking about. Really consider it. Also, I don't think anything like that would be successful here because we have the largest military in the world, and anything like that would be put down in an instant. So there's also
but then I mean that wouldn't really stop it though. I mean, if you think about it, like if there was some kind of uprising, the military would combat it, yes, but I feel like that would just give them more fuel. They'd be like, look, see, they're trying to put us down, like, and then they're just more fuel for the fire, and then they just hit harder, you know?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think, like, I don't think it'll ever happen. I think we're getting in a hypothetical land now. However,
I don't think, maybe not like that, but, you know.
I think if anything like that were to happen, let's say it started to get that big somehow, whatever it is, I don't know. I don't think anything like that's going to happen, but hypothetically speaking, let's say it did. I guarantee you, without a doubt, maybe with a little doubt, but I'm almost willing to bet that like the UN probably steps in and goes, okay, no, stop. And they just come in and just stop it.
Like kids fighting.
just
like,
stop.
Hey.
Like your children. Just shh.
I'm concerned because I don't know, because I'm not a part of these groups or anything, but I know people who are on the far left, like all the way left, you know, in their own words, all the way left, you know, that's how they identify. And they have told me, you know, because like a few years ago, I didn't think civil war was like going to happen because I was like younger and I was like more optimistic. And I was like, you know, that's crazy. Like, why would there would never be civil war?
Right.
And I had this, you know, like far left guy say to me, oh, we're ready for a civil war. You know, he said like it's going to happen because the way he said it was like scary. He was like, the people are ready. And I'm like, what people do you know? You know? And it wasn't until the two other girls that were sitting at the table with us agreed with him that I realized that I was in the minority and I was like the only rational person there. And I was like, oh,
well, to be fair though, I don't think that I think in that instance, you were the minority in terms of thought there. I do think that that's just a vocal minority, though. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of people that believe things like that. However, I don't think it's to the level that they believe.
I mean, he told me that, like, there are groups. And I was like, what groups? And he was like, I don't think I should tell you yet. You know, like, he was like, he didn't trust me. And I was like, are you part of a terrorist organization? You know?
That's another thing, is it's like you
I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure there is, I don't know. See, I feel like I would say there's like an underground with the right, but I feel like they're not really underground anymore, you know, like they're above ground. Like everyone knows who the KKK is and all this stuff, you know?
Yes and no.
I think there has to be the same thing on the left. I feel like they're just like in hiding because that's what he told me, you know, they're like, he's like, no, like you don't see them, but they're there and they're ready to kill. You know, is what this guy told me, basically. I mean,
but that's people.
Not in those words.
Honestly, I don't know, because here's the thing: when you look at these people on the far left, like what they actually do, right? Let's look at Antifa. It's just
where is Antifa? I feel like they're like underground. Like they always just poke their head out to play, and then they go back in their little hole.
Yeah, here's the thing, though: is it's like when you actually look at the things they do in their violence. Don't get me wrong; it is, but it isn't. It's like these are children fighting.
Yeah, this kind of joke.
That's all it is. These are people that are just talking shit. I guarantee you, it's just people. Well, I can't guarantee that, but like,
You're not ready for like a real fight.
No, I don't. I really don't think so. This guy go, oh, they're ready to kill. That guy's probably never taken a life in his life.
No,
he's probably never
he
seen somebody die in his life. He's probably never been around that. I don't know, right? I don't know. But what
I can guarantee you he hasn't. Yeah.
You can what?
I can guarantee you he hasn't.
Okay. Then these people don't know
the
what they're
dude wears like
about.
flamingo fluorescent jackets, like.
Okay, then no, just no.
You know,
you don't know what you're talking about. You do not understand. You no.
I mean, he's a great dude. He's like one of my.
You're stupid.
He's like one of my favorite people. I mean,
right.
honestly,
Well, I'm not saying
he really
that
is.
this
But
specific person is stupid, but like saying shit like that, I'm like, but that's stupid. Like you clearly don't understand. You don't understand the reality of what you're actually talking about. You've never done this. You're probably never gonna do it. You'd probably be too scared to do it, like most people probably would.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean,
look at when you see violence from these groups. Look at what happened. It's not. I'm not.
You know who's gonna win? The side who has guns. You know who doesn't have guns? The left. They don't have guns. You know, I mean, you're not gonna win with the right. You're not, because all of those people are armed to the teeth. Even just the moderate people. Even moderate left people are armed, you know? So like you're not gonna win. Like, how are you gonna win with like crowbars and mace? Like, I don't think so.
What do you think's gonna happen? This is oh god.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good, honestly. But then again, this is what I'm talking about, like with the pendulum swinging. So like, say something happens, right, where the left comes out in like a militant way, like the extreme left comes out in like militant force. There's gonna be a response from the right and from the government, of course, who is probably maybe not actually right, but they would definitely be seen as right, you know? Damn, we're starting to think of everything in like left rights. That's not good.
No.
But I mean, that would be how probably things would be seen.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reality is just that like these people all have guns, like the military, all armed. Everyone on the right is armed. So, you know, A, people are going to die, and B, you're not going to win, you know? So stop being a child and
Yeah.
please just like come back, be rational, have a conversation. And, you know, maybe we should stop denigrating each other because like that's not good. And that's not gonna lead
anywhere.
to anything good. Yeah, it's not gonna get us anywhere good. This is the thing I don't understand. It's like people will, you know, this is my view. I'm like, as long as you're not like actually hurting someone or like calling for people to be physically harmed, which happens too much, unfortunately, especially online because people get bold.
Yeah.
But like as long as that's not happening, I don't understand why we can't all just like say things, you know? It's like you're not hurting anyone. It's like, can we just be nice about it, please? You know?
I mean, okay, I get what you're saying. However, I'm not gonna like if someone says something super racist, I'm not gonna expect.
Well, that's not nice.
No, I know. But
yeah,
like, cause you talked about like you mentioned physical harm specifically, and I'm like, okay, but I get what you're saying, and I agree. However, I think there's more to it though, and I'm not saying that. I'm not gonna expect someone who is the victim of a hate crime to be particularly patient or kind to people who have even remotely racist ideas. Even if they're not blatantly racist, I'm not going to expect someone who, like I said, is the victim of it to be nice to this person.
No, of course you wouldn't.
I don't. You know what I mean?
Anything other than if you meet hate with anything other than love, you're just going to get more hate. It doesn't matter if it's justified or not. That's just what's going to happen. I mean,
no, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But
so, you know, if someone throws a racial slur at you and then you cuss them out and get all mad at them, what just happened? We just created more hate. You know, we just made everybody's more mad now. And now that person feels even more justified in calling you a racial slur because they're like, yeah, look at you insert racial slur, you know?
Yeah. No,
you're exactly what I think you are. You're this monster, you know? And they can continue to pretend that people that look like you are like that because you gave them a perfectly legitimate example of that. So now they can just continue to be what they are. But if you don't give in to them and you don't give them that, then they can't. There's no justification for that.
But
for their
to
behavior.
be fair, though, I do think that responding in a like getting angry, whether or not it's like something you should do or if it's the best thing to do. I'm not saying that. However, I'm also saying that like I get it. I think most people would respond that way. I think it'd be hard not to. I think it'd be really difficult not to. You know. But I mean, I don't know.
You have to be like, unless you're like a laugher like me, because I just laugh at everything. Like if someone said something ridiculous,
I know you
to
laugh
me,
at everything.
I really do. Like I mean, you know this, you know me. I'm like, if someone like actually got like hit me or something, I mean, I might not. My initial reaction would probably not be to laugh if I was even conscious, because who's to say I'm not going to get KO'd? But I mean, I'm definitely going to laugh about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I heard this one guy, and he's funny. He said, you can either look at your life as a drama or a comedy. I'm going to choose to look at mine as a comedy because when shit happens. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
You know?
Honestly, people look hella funny when they get KO'd anyways. It's like,
it does.
It's just the idea, you know, after the fact. Because like, again, in the moment, it might be different. But like, definitely after the fact, just the idea of me like hitting the floor, just completely unconscious. As that would just, I mean, come on, you're like a ragdoll. You know?
Yeah. It's
like that. You're gonna tell me that's not funny. I don't even look like a human person anymore. I just, you know?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, that's disturbing, I guess, if you think about like head trauma when you hit the floor and all that. But like, also funny, you know?
But okay, the weirdest feeling. So I haven't been knocked out, but I've almost been put to sleep, and it's the weirdest feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so weird. Like I was all dazed and shit afterwards. Like I didn't get straight up put to sleep because, like I tapped and I was like, okay, no. Like okay, when I wrestle with my family, with my younger cousins who are basically just my younger brother, like it's no. It's not just like playful brother. No, like we're going at it.
Real. Yeah,
we're going at it.
Real. Really wrestling. Yes.
And my cousin almost put me to sleep, and it was funny. But I almost so like the week before, I almost put him to sleep, right? Because I put him in a guillotine. You know what that is?
Some kind of
position. So it's a type of headlock. So basically, there's a camera looking at me, and I'm gonna explain it. Someone's head, you put it in between your bicep and then your forearm. And their head is behind you, and you basically create a guillotine with your arms, and you just squeeze up and then lean.
That's the kind of most common headlock, isn't it?
If people go towards you, like if we're wrestling and I go towards you, like head first, you're giving me your head, and I just put it there, fall back, wrap my legs around you, and lean. And then you're going to sleep.
That's it. Yeah.
And I almost put my cousin to sleep. And then when he stood up, I was like, oh shit. Like I thought he was crying because his eyes were all. But then he did it to me the next week. And when I stood up, that's how I looked. And I was like, oh, I get it. It's just
the blood. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're not actually about to cry. It's just, it's like you're dazed. Like my eyes were all watered because it just. It's a weird
that's
feeling.
The thing about, like in movies, like when someone gets like choked out or strangled or something, that's the thing that they almost never get right. They got it right with Loki. That was like disturbingly accurate to what like someone might look like if they like got their throat crushed. You know, like in Infinity War. You remember that when Loki died?
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, Thanos literally like grabs him and just like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that was like disturbingly kind of realistic looking. But yeah, like your eyes are not gonna be like white, you know.
No, they're gonna be bloodshot.
You're not, and your face isn't going to be like totally normal looking. Like you're going to, you know, your head's going to look like it's about to explode.
Yeah. It's,
you know,
dude, it's a weird feeling.
I mean, I've fainted. I've been choked out before too. Like in wrestling, like when I did wrestling briefly in like 6th grade. So like, I know what that feels like. That's not comfortable. But yeah, I feel like feigning is even weirder than that though.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, it's not the same feeling because you're like this whole area. It's not because of that. It's because of like I don't know. For me, I was like sick, and then the other time it was like anxiety induced from like getting my blood taken. But yeah, that is, in my opinion, that's even weirder, because when you faint like that and you lose consciousness, you almost don't even see it coming, and then it's over before you knew it started. But you like feel like you're conscious, like you're completely conscious when you like come out of it, and like when you go into it, and there's just like this black spot in the middle, Okay,
you know what the weirdest feeling was?
Yeah.
Getting put to sleep when I got my wisdom teeth taken out. That was weird, because I remember I was sitting there and I was looking at the ceiling, and it was funny. So they put the needle in my arm, but they didn't put it in a vein, and so they're all it hurt, bro. They're all moving it around in my arm and shit, like twisting it, trying to get it right. And I'm like, God damn it, can you just get it in?
Freaking dentists.
So they took it out and then they put it back in, and I was like, okay, hopefully, like, they got it this time, right? And I'm looking at the ceiling, like, hopefully they don't have to twist it around and shit, and then the next thing I knew, I was waking up with gauze in my mouth, and didn't know what was happening. I was like, huh?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, dude.
I got my teeth taken. That was, yeah.
Yeah, bro, it was weird. It was hella funny. I said some dumb shit when I remember I came home, and my aunt looked at me, and she was like, oh, how are you, sweetie? And I just looked at her, and I just went, with friggin' gauze in my mouth. I don't even remember doing this. I was just like, I'm so high. And
to your aunt.
And I just looked at her, said that, and I was like, and I just went in my room and fell asleep.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when I got my teeth taken. I don't know why. I was like not having it with these doctors and the dentists and everyone. I was like so mad at them for some reason. I think it's because they asked me to get out of the chair. They're like, we have someone else coming. We need to get out of the chair. And I was like cussing them out and telling them like, I'm not gonna get out of the chair. Screw you.
I remember when I got mine. Like, I remember waking up, and they were like, okay, like, they were telling me, okay, like, it went well, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, And then Sean was there because he had to drive me. And we went to go pick up my medication. And I just remember sitting in the car and being like just staring with like the dumbest face. And it was so weird, dude. I was like, I just kept looking at things. I kept going, I'm high. And then I remember at one point it was hella weird because I was like kind of loopy, and like I could see like two of everything, and I went, whoa. It was
like weird. Legit?
Yeah, I looked at a car and I was
crazy.
Like, there's two of them.
I've never had that before.
And then I looked at Sean and I was like, your head is like floating next to your head.
Wow.
Like, it's just my vision was distorted. Like, I wasn't hallucinating. It's just my vision got distorted, so it was like I could see.
That is crazy. See, I've never had that, and I've always wondered, because you know how like in movies, sometimes when like people get hit or something, they'll see like the double vision and they'll do the camera tricks and everything to make it look like that. I'm like, does it really look anything like that?
When you start to get put out, it feels weird. Like when I almost got choked out, it was weird because I was like your vision. I didn't see two of things because I didn't get put to sleep and then wake up, but I almost did. Yeah. And like it's weird for a second. You kind of gotta like look around and like kind of.
Yeah. No, it's like startling. You're like, I don't know what the hell just happened.
It's not like, you're not supposed to be like, this is not meant to happen. And when it happens to you, it's like, whoa, that feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is like medically, but I'm sure it has something to do with like your brain, and it's like it's some kind of biological function of your body.
And I know, so when you choke someone out, you are cutting off their air, but the main thing you're doing is there's the blood. Yeah, and you cut that off, and then they just pass out.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and it feels weird, dude.
Oh, I imagine.
It was funny because when I had done it to my cousin, I didn't know what the feeling was like, right? So I had done it to someone, almost put him to sleep, but I had never almost been put to sleep. And then
is that how we ended up on this? Because we were talking about like people not knowing like reality of things or something.
I think so. I don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, no, that is actually, that's kind of disturbing to think about in itself, that like you knocked your cousin out, right? But like you had no idea what it was like to get knocked out.
Nope, I had no idea what it felt like to get put to sleep, and then I almost did because he tapped before I did, but he was almost out. He told me he felt himself go, oh, and he went, no, I don't want to go to sleep. And then the next week or 2 weeks later, again, I didn't know the reality of it. I didn't know what it was like. And so I was a little cocky. And then I got put in my place. And I was like, oh, never mind. Like, that's not fun. That feels weird.
Yeah. Well, I think there's actually this thing that happens where if you don't, have an experience like if you've never been hurt, like physically or emotionally even, I guess, you like, it's easier for you to like do it to other people, because you don't have that experience. So I feel like it doesn't like really register in your head. So kind of going back to that like like Antifa, like
let's circle
hitting
back.
people. Yeah, let's circle back. Like that Antifa, like hitting someone in the head with a crowbar. It's like if you go and you hit someone in the head with a crowbar, what are the chances that you've been hit in the head with a crowbar before? I'm gonna say they're pretty low. I don't, because like. I remember when I was younger, when I was in like elementary school, I used to like hurt kids sometimes. I know that sounds like bad, but like I was a violent little kid. I mean, that's just the truth. And I realized in retrospect that probably a lot of the reason that happened was because I had never been like put in my place,
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no experience with like physical pain. I mean, my life was just too easy, basically. And so I think this is actually, I think, a good reason why it's healthy for kids to be put into some kind of martial art or something, like whether it's jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or whatever, Although I think jiu-jitsu is probably better, but
because you're not striking, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, you're not getting hit, but you still get that physical like. You're grappling. You still get that physical
and people will get the best of you too. And not only do you understand what it's like to be in these uncomfortable situations, you understand what it's like to get hurt, to be taken down, and you understand, like when you do that to someone else, like you've had it done to you, like you understand what you're doing and what's actually happening,
right?
Whereas if you've never had that experience, like you could just go hurt someone and you could just be totally ignorant of it,
of what it's like. That's one of the fun. So it's fun when like I said, when I wrestle with my brother and like my cousins, it's like when we do it, we're actually like Sean's obviously wrestled, right?
Oh yeah,
and I'll watch stuff on like because like I want to do jiu-jitsu, I want to take, but like I can't right now, obviously. And so what do? Since I can't do it, let me just look up what these people do. Let me watch them do it. And then I'll obviously listen to them and describe how you do the right technique, and then I'll just go practice it with my cousins, and we'll just kind of have fun with it, and then we'll actually try it,
Mm-hmm.
And like so, I looked up how to do a guillotine, and I was surprised that I actually did it right. And what did I do afterwards? I just showed my cousin how to do it. But it's fun, and I wasn't allowed to do like physical sports as a kid,
mm-hmm.
And I was always kind of like when I'd wrestle, like my friends or my cousins, I was always too weak. I didn't know what to do, and I wasn't strong enough. Whereas now that I'm older, it's a bit different. Like I'll wrestle Sean, and like I know I'm gonna lose, but like I'll still do it, and I'll go for it.
He's a monster. I don't know. Oh,
and like I'll do it, and I'll go for it.
Yeah.
And it was funny. So there was one time where I also put him in, because that's like the only thing I really know how to do properly. I put him into a guillotine, but I didn't get I didn't close it. I didn't lean like you're supposed to. That's how you... And so, but I could hear him like... like he's all breathing and shit like that. And I'm like trying to like squeeze, but it just wasn't working. And I ended up losing my grip just because I got tired. But so then the next time we wrestled, I tried doing it to him. And he just went, no. And he just picked me up. And so I'm hanging over him with my arm wrapped around his neck, and I can't squeeze. Yeah. He just picked me up. He's like, no, I'm not doing this again. It was fun though.
Oh my god, the size advantage.
But that's one of those things where funny. I think that like having that, like getting that like aggression out, not to say that I'm a naturally aggressive person or like with kids, right? Mm-hmm. Another sidetrack, but it's okay, we'll circle back. But like with kids, how you mentioned, like it's good for them to get that out, because let's be real, like,
they need that experience,
right? And I think it does something to humble you. I think doing anything physically where you can get hurt is gonna skateboarding is a good example. I'm not wrestling and going against another person, however you can get hurt doing that, and it will humble you really quick. It's the same thing with surfing.
It'll humble you. It'll give you more empathy too. Like this is the thing. This is why I think little kids a lot of times can be so mean, is because they just don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't really know. Like that's why I feel like when you're young, you can see someone eat it on a skateboard and like laugh at them, and when you're older, you go, ooh, you know.
Even though it's a little funny sometimes, but then like if it's not like a bad fall, it's funny. But like there was one time where I was at a skate park and I saw a dude break his arm, and I was like I didn't laugh at all. I was like, fuck.
Well, yeah, because you broke your ankle before.
Yeah, so, and I was like, ooh, I fractured my ankle. I didn't even break it. I fractured it and sprained it, but I was like, ooh, that hurt. I couldn't imagine giving myself a second elbow, which is what Sean did that.
Yeah. I'm sure you could actually hear it too, the smacking and the...
So I didn't hear... So I wasn't like... I was probably like... I was on the other end of the skate park, like kind of like... Or I was like in the middle-ish, like in the back, and he was towards like the front, like by the entrance. Mm-hmm. And when he fell, like he was just like, oh, and I was like, what the hell? Like trying to figure out what was happening.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and he turned around, he's holding his arm and it's just second elbow. And I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. It hits different when you actually see it in person too, because like you'd see stuff like that happen on the internet all the time, and it's like, okay.
Nah, bro.
It's not the same.
Oh, it was weird. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's, that's important, an important part of, like being able to have empathy, Mm-hmm. Because unless you're like really, really good at imagining something, I mean, I don't think you can do it without some kind of experience of some kind of, trauma yourself or some kind of actual, harm yourself, because I feel like, we have to base everything off of our own experience. Otherwise, like, you can't like imagine a new feeling, so like if you've, if someone's never called you a name that made you feel bad, like it's going to be really hard for you to imagine what that feels like, you know? And I think that's a problem too, not just with little kids where you see it the most, because, they're just ignorant to the world. They just don't know stuff, they haven't had experiences because they're just really young,
Mm-hmm.
And actually that's an interesting thing too, is that, they're like innocently cruel,
And they don't know any better. See, here's what's funny. I was on the other end of that as a kid. I was never on the end of innocently hurting people. I was on the end of people not knowing any better and getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because I was picked on all through being a kid. That like, I remember I was sitting in class and like, these two kids, it would just start punching me, and like. And I was always on the receiving end of that. And it was like, bro, you clearly don't get this. And then in 6th grade is when it was really bad, when I got like the shit beat out of me. But there was one time where he could tell, like, oh, shit. Like, even he realized, he was like, oh, damn. Because he grabbed my shirt, spun me around and threw me, and I hit my head. Yeah. And he went, because he realized what he did. And he was like, oh, shit. Yeah. That was the first time I think I saw him go, like, I think it was the first time I heard him apologize.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm sorry. And I think I just told him fuck you and kept walking, because I almost like fell asleep. Like I almost got knocked out. Like everything was dizzy.
You hit your head. Yeah. That's dangerous.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And had I been a few feet to my right, I would have hit it on concrete. Thankfully, I just hit it on like, how it's just like the bark on the playground, and it's kind of soft. I hit it on that, so it wasn't too bad. Had I been a few feet to my right,
if you would have hit your head on the concrete, it would have been lights out.
I would have been
sure.
out.
Yeah.
110%. I would have been out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though, is because when we think of innocence, I think we don't usually think of things like that, like cruelty or people getting hurt or anything like that. But that can be innocent too. I mean, innocence is ignorance, really. It's like when you talk about the innocence of a child, you're just really talking about that they don't
of a child.
Know things. They don't have any experienced knowledge of things. They don't have any external knowledge. There's things they haven't learned. And so. They can hurt without really understanding what hurting is.
Right.
They can get hurt without even understanding really what getting hurt is.
Right.
And it as much as it is a good thing, it can also be a bad thing. And this is why education is like so important. and not just, I know me and you have talked about this before, education being not just, learning things in school, but like actually having experiences in life. Yeah.
I think that some of the greatest things you can learn in life come from experience and come from doing things. I think something that's an interesting teacher, I think, is fear. You know what I mean? Like, remember when we went cliff jumping?
Mm-hmm.
That was terrifying. Remember you and I, we wouldn't do it.
I didn't even do the 50 foot. I like chickened out.
No,
I was
but
like,
here's the thing. You had never even been cliff jumping.
No.
Right? And you jumped off a 30-foot cliff your first time.
Yeah, I did the 30 foot, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was terrifying. But I feel like one of the things that goes to show you is it's like, you think you can't do something. Mm-hmm. And then you do it, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not as scary. Then you look back on it, and you're like, oh.
It's not. It's like the most fear is the moment leading up to it, and then you do it, and you're like, oh.
I'm fine.
And I feel like that can go with a lot of things in life. Like, once you've done something, then you're kind of like, oh, okay. And that can teach you things. So, okay, let's use, like you said, putting people in pain, right? Wrestling, right? Doing martial arts, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to teach you two things. Getting put into pain is going to make you realize, so this is what I'm doing to someone. Cool, I can at least empathize with this person. Sean made a good point to me one time. He said, you don't try. He said, you don't go all out when you wrestle. And he was like, I don't know why. He was like, I think it's because you're scared to hurt like him or my cousin. And he was like, you don't like go all out. He said, go all out because I guarantee you'll do better. And I was like, okay. Because I realized that is I was scared to hurt my cousin because I've been put in pain a lot. Yeah,
you know what it's like to get hurt. Yeah.
And I was scared to do it, but then Sean went, no, now you need to be on the other end of it, and you got to learn what it's like to do it to someone. I went, okay, and then I did it, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got cocky, and then I got put in my place, and I was like, okay, so this is
right. This is the balance of things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's 10:30.
Yeah.
So you gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta dip, but good.
This is a really good talk though.
Yeah, it was, dude.
This was a good one. But podcast is back. All right.
Yeah, dude. Actually on weekly uploads now, so
weekly uploads. So we're gonna be doing podcast out every Thursday.
Yep.
At 12 o'clock.
Every Thursday at 12. We're not streaming them because we record these in the morning. I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah. But if we can figure out a good time to do them in the afternoon, then we'll definitely...
We'll start streaming them. You guys can check it out, and that'd be cool.
Yep. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening.
Yep, we appreciate it.
And adios.
All right, sweet.